All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another On the Stoa video. My name is John. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Today's video is going to be titled, Don't Let Your Gut Be Your God. Now, what do I mean by that? We first have to go first, or at least the first stop in this video is to the book of Genesis in the Bible, chapter 3. And it talks about the fall of man and how sin, or the consequences of sin, came into the world. So the serpent rolls up and talks to Adam and Eve. Adam, it's not directly stated, but we know that Adam is just there, kind of right next to her, right next to Eve. He's kind of in the sidelines, but in the background a little bit, watching everything. The serpent comes to Eve and asks her, "Did God?" Actually, I'm gonna read it from the Bible right here. It says, actually, let me see if I can turn this around. Okay, so I can't turn it around, but I'm just going to read it just like this. So this is the start of chapter 3, verses 1 through 6. Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Has God indeed said, 'You shall not eat of every tree of the garden'?" And the woman said to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, 'You shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die.' Then the serpent said to the woman, 'You will not surely die. For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened. You will be like God, knowing good and evil.' So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate it." So I want to focus in on that last part, the three things. Okay, the three things being that it was good for food, it looked good to the eyes, and it was pretty much profitable for wisdom. The tree can make one person wise. So I also want to note too in this section that the serpent didn't directly tempt Eve. What do I mean by that? Didn't directly tempt Eve. All he said was that you won't die, for in the day that for God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, you will be like God, knowing good and evil. The serpent didn't tell her to directly eat it. Now, this is in contrast to what Satan does in the New Testament. Let me flip there real quick. Actually, yeah, let me flip there real quick. Okay, so I found it. This is in the Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11. In these, we see Satan directly tempting Jesus. He literally says, "If you are the Son of God, command." He's using the imperative. The word means in grammar to command. So it's a type of command that you're giving. So he says, "Command these stones become like bread." He also says, "Throw yourself down." Then he also says, "If you will fall down and worship me." So fall down and worship me. Jump from this ledge, turn these stones into bread. So these are three things, again, commands. And we see that the serpent didn't directly tempt Eve. There weren't physical commands. Now, why am I saying that? And how does this connect to my title, Don't Let Your Gut Become Your God? What I mean by that is that Eve had internal temptation. She tempted herself. We see that, she allowed these three things. And it connects into, I believe, in the book of Hebrews, I think it's 1 John. I need to check that again. But there's three things that cause people to sin. It's the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Lust of the flesh was desirable for food. It would look good to eat. The pleasurable to the eyes, there was something beautiful about it. It's the lust of the eyes. And then finally, it was profitable for wisdom. That's the pride of life, the desire to know more than what you are allowed to by God, or what God has reasoned you to know. And so we see that these things caused her to tempt herself into essentially stepping away out of what God told her to do. And because of that, man fell, and here we are today. So what am I trying to say with don't let your gut become your God? A lot of times we fall down to our base desires. And these lusts of the flesh, lusts of the eyes, and the pride of life, these are animalistic desires. These are the primal things that we feel like we need, especially lust of the flesh. The pride of life is something that's more reason-based. It's a higher level thinking, but definitely lust of the flesh and lust of the eyes. With lust of the flesh, that's fulfilling the basic need of people. That's like, oh, I need something to eat. I need this. I need that. I need this. Something to fulfill. I need sex. It's very animalistic desires, primal desires that people have. So in that, when we allow ourselves to succumb to like these sins of gluttony, to succumb to our passions of the flesh, the lust towards a person, to have unwarranted and just wild sex, or getting drunk and not controlling yourself, not having that virtue of temperance, or exercising these other virtues and instead embracing the vices, we are falling down into this lust, into this passion, these animalistic desires that are keeping us from drawing closer to God, from drawing closer to the sum total of virtue, the highest good, the summum bonum. And so in that, each time we do that, and each time we are seeking to fulfill something, we are allowing our gut, in a sense, the gut was used to be, the stomach wasn't also where food went, but it was also considered the seat of the emotions. So we're succumbing to our desires. We're succumbing to the physical, the animalistic desires. And so we can't let ourselves do that. And I think this is where the idea of fasting comes in. In the temptation, when Satan tempted Jesus, before then Jesus went into the desert and fasted for 40 days and 40 nights as well. No food, just water, I believe, but definitely no food. Now, in this, we see that the fasting is what drew Christ closer to his Father. And when we go under fasting, again, this is kind of something I've been thinking about in terms of the season of Lent, for me being a Catholic or even Orthodox or any of the high church Protestants out there. In the season of Lent that we're in, and we're giving up something, we're fasting, we're abstaining from something that is drawing us away from God, that we feel like, by doing so, we're now forced to draw closer to God in prayer. If I'm giving up sweets, or if I'm giving up processed sugars, or I'm giving up drinking or smoking or whatever, which I believe people should be doing. If it's a direct sin, you shouldn't be doing that anyway. But what we're doing is we're allowing ourselves to draw closer to God. We're saying, okay, I'm going to step outside of these animalistic desires. I'm going to step outside of my primal self, because I am not just flesh. I am also spirit. And Paul talks about crucifying the flesh daily. I have put to death the flesh so I can draw closer to Christ. It is paraphrased there, but he talks about that a lot in his epistles. And so we're putting to death our flesh. We're putting to death the primal desires. And you are saying, yes, that is a part of us. But what we're saying is we're higher than that. We're higher than the animalistic physical plane that we're living in. We're called to be more. In the same way that Christ told Peter, no longer will you just be fishers. No longer are you a fisherman. You will be fishers of men. Ooh, that's the bar right there. And so he's saying that you're no longer are you going to be stuck in this physical environment where you're subsisting on, you're searching for physical things to satisfy your needs. But I'm going to put you on a mission that will help you, not only that will allow you to bring people to Christ, to show that there is something more than their physical desires. When Christ is talking to the woman at the well, he says, the water that I can give will give someone, so they'll never thirst again. And the woman's like, oh, where is this water that I may drink of it? Right? So in this, we are seeing that we cannot allow ourselves to be stuck in our physical primal desires, because we're not based in this. And at each time that we succumb to them, and this is where I guess the grace abounds, where sin abounds, grace abounds, and we're striving to be closer to God, we cannot let our gut become our God. If we are succumbing to lustful desires every time we get a little hot, if you will, whether it be for sex, whether it be for drinking, whether it be for whatever, then we're essentially seeding ourselves away from the spirit and into the flesh. And now the gut, the seat of our emotions, the physical desires are now becoming our God. We're doing what Eve did. We're looking at the fruit. We're saying, God, I know you don't want me to do this, but this just looks so good. I'm relying on my human understanding. This is why the Proverbs says, Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5-6, 5-7. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him and he shall direct your paths. So in that, when we are stepping forward into life and we're going forward into life, let's examine what are the things that are drawing us away from God, that are leading us to idolize our own human nature, our own flesh. We're turning our flesh into our own God, than worshiping Yahweh, the God who made heaven and the earth, who sent his only begotten son down to suffer and die for us so we can draw closer to him and no longer be separated. Additionally, let's make sure that when we are suffering and going through this period of fasting, that we're drawing closer to God, because we have a choice. Whenever we are falling and we're struggling, we have that choice. Do we draw closer to God, or do we fall back to the thing which brought me shame, the thing that I'm running away from? Do I run away from my sinful abuser, in the sense the thing that is killing my soul, or do I run closer to God, whose burden to carry is much lighter and ultimately will fulfill the thing that we're needing, that we're looking for, where we will no longer thirst, where we will no longer hunger, but rather let us hunger and thirst after righteousness, because it's in that we'll be filled. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. So all this to say, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding, and don't let your gut become your God. Draw closer to God. Draw closer to Christ every day through prayer, through whatever. And even if you feel like you're suffering, know that Christ is there right beside you. Offer it up to the Lord, and he is always right there. He will give you the strength to carry through it, because if you think about it, Christ came to earth, 100% man, did everything. I think this is in Hebrews. He was tested with everything a human could be tested with, but he came out perfect. He was sinless. And if Christ can do that, then I think with Christ's help, we can do our best to be the same way. That's all I got for you guys. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank y'all so much again for watching. I'll see y'all in another video. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And don't let your gut become your God. See you later.